Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'd like to call a special call city council meeting for the city of Homestead to order. Today is Tuesday, July 9th, 2024, and it is now 5:05 p.m. A roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Countable. Here. Councilman Davis. Here. Councilwoman Avila.
Here.
Councilwoman Bailey. Here. Councilman Roth. Here. Vice Mayor Fletcher.
Here.
Mayor Lawson.
Here. All right. Good, thank you. Do we have any additions, deletions, or deferrals?
Not at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. Mr. Pearl, would you read tab 1, please?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. Tab 1 is the first reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending Chapter 2, Administration, Article 8, Contracts and Purchasing, Division 2, Competitive Bids, Section 2-411.1, Exemptions from Competitive Bidding, to increase the city manager's purchasing authority, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. And do we have a staff report on this one?
So, Mr. Mayor, this item is before the council to bring whole. At this time, the manager has a threshold of $50,000 without a competitive procurement process for all items, with the exception of professional service agreements. So the intent of this ordinance amendment is to increase the professional services agreement threshold to $50,000 to align with all other approvals under the manager's threshold.
Very good. Thank you. Council, do we have any initial questions or comments? All right. Seeing or hearing none, I'll ask, is there anyone online or in the chambers who wishes to speak on this matter? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion to approve on first reading.
Move it.
Moved by Councilwoman Avila, seconded by Councilman Cannonball. Let's have a roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Clemente.
Clemente? She called you first.
Councilman Clemente. Yes. Councilman Davis. Yes. Councilman Roth.
Yes.
Councilwoman Bailey. Councilwoman Avila.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fletcher.
Yes.
Mayor Lawson.
Yes, thank you.
Motion
And this
carried.
will have its final reading next week, correct? The regular council meeting on the 17th. All right. If you would read tab 2, Mr. Pearl.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Tab 2 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, opposing the proposed development of 551 residential units by Blue Nest Grove Residences, LLC, on property located in unincorporated Miami-Dade County at 31601 Southwest 197th Avenue, that will place additional burdens on city infrastructure, providing for transmittal and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Do we have a staff report?
Mr. Mayor, the city on the June 26, 2024 council meeting adopted a temporary building moratorium to pause development and allow for a thorough evaluation of existing and proposed impact fees, which are essential for the funding necessary for capital improvements outlined in the city's comprehensive plan. This resolution is in opposition to the development from Blue Nest Development New Hometowns. It is 551 new townhomes in unincorporated Miami-Dade County, and the intent is for the council to consider an opposition in the resolution related to the potential impact that this development will have on the City of Homestead resources, specifically utilities.
Yes. Thank you. And included in our package is an analysis
That is correct.
for this package. And unfortunately, we don't have it in our packages, but the letter of intent and the basic summary of this application was provided to me by our attorneys. And this is a 40-acre project west of Redland Road, just west of the City of Homestead limits, for 451 townhomes in what is traditionally been single family, but it's a rezoning from estate density which is between 1 and 2.5 units per acre, to low medium density, which would provide for up to 13 units per acre. So that's almost, a six-fold increase in the impact over the units that would be there at this point. I mean, I'll take the blame or the credit for bringing this forward, and I would appreciate your support on this one. Councilwoman Avila.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, although these are not within the city limits, I think in the spirit of what this council just recently passed with our moratorium, it's fitting to have a voice and to vocalize that we want to calm development in the greater Homestead area. They carry our zip code name. Unfortunately, we get the blame for a lot of stuff that happens outside the city limits, and so for public perception, I think this is a good thing. I believe one of the items, I think, was already passed and approved by the county, is what I heard this morning, but still, we can pass the resolutions and just vocalize and continue to support that. We want to calm the development while we go through our infrastructure analysis, and although it's not within the city limits, we will have a perceived effect from everything going on. So thank you for bringing up these items.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to support them tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and certainly, obviously the utilities analysis, but clearly we've been focused on our east-west roadways as real issues, and lying just to the west of our city limits, this could be a pretty significant impact. So,
And to add to that, I mean, I won't be surprised that they're going to continue the projects as it is, and they will pass with the county either way. So, for anyone listening in, we can have a voice, a unified voice on it, but we won't control the ultimate outcome. We will not be voting on the approval of these projects.
No, but our opposition, if it's passed, will be part of the package. This resolution and the two following it contain direction to be transmitted to the chairman of the commission, our two county commissioners, and as applicable, the community council files and the clerks for that entity, so that whichever body votes will be aware of our opposition. So I think I had someone to my left who wanted to speak. Nope. All right. Yes, Councilman. Right. Well, I have Councilman Roth chimed in, and then Vice Mayor Fletcher.
Thank you. Just a question in reference to the services that the city provides to developments outside the city of Homestead. Just like developers come into our city, are they required to go through a process with our city to see that we have capacity to handle those situations prior to them being approved by the county level? And if we don't have the capacity to handle these units, what happens at the county level?
So specifically for this item, the proposed development will connect to the City of Homestead's Pump Station 11, which the Miami-Dade County, Durham, has imposed a moratorium on. For the particular development on the table, ideally, right, our Development Services Department would be monitoring items that are proffered for the local planning board, and what we're looking to establish is a forum that we are able to communicate on behalf of the City of Homestead those areas of concerns. As it pertains to a formal approval, because it is within the city or the Miami-Dade County, they do not require approval directly from the City of Homestead. So this is an avenue for us to provide our recommendations and opining.
So if our services, if our utilities have to extend out and connect to undeveloped parcels outside the city limits, who has the authority to say, we're not capable of doing that, so you can't approve developments where we can't service them?
So that quite frankly, that conversation happens at permitting, which oftentimes is a little bit too late, right? We need to be able, which is the intent and the spirit of these resolutions, to be able to proffer these concerns much earlier in the process for the county to deliberate.
Right, but if, listen, I'm all against the development of these properties that are going to impact us in many ways, aside from utility consumption, but it would make, to me, make more sense that the developer would have dialogue with the city. This pump station is not even up and running at this point, or it's been it's got a moratorium on it, so to add another 500 and whatever units to it, it just doesn't make any sense to me at all that they would even be doing that. So I just wanted to understand the process that if a developer is going to connect to utilities, whether it be electric or water and sewer, there has to be a process that they come through our city.
So
Because there may be costs also. I mean, if
Agreed.
we don't have sewage going out to this property, who's going to pay for that, right? If we don't have water lines going out to that property, who's going to pay for those things? And I think I heard the mayor say that this was originally zoned 2.5 units per acre. Up to, which is, estate density, right? So half-acre units or half-acre parcels. And now you're talking about 511 units or whatever it was, 551 units on that same property. That's a big impact on our infrastructure. So I was just curious about how that whole process works. Because they'd have to come to us. If not, their project would be dead at the beginning, right? So I just thinking out loud as to what really happens with that.
So they would come to us for permitting, but what the process is that they're going through now is the development, so the planning process for consideration. So that is where they're required, right, for connection to our pump station. That is the mandatory engagement period. The resolution that is before us is intended to do exactly what you're suggesting, that we begin that conversation much earlier in the planning process, that we can plan for that capacity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Vice Mayor Fletcher.
Just to kind of follow up on Councilman Ross' question there. So what is the actual obligation of the city for these entities that are outside of the city limits of Homestead but impact city services that are provided that are also outside of the city limits of Homestead? What's the obligation? Because we can come and say, we don't have the capacity, and they've already built half of these projects in place, and then where do we go at that point?
So this particular project, and we can talk about tabs 3 and 4 individually, but this particular project, from a water and sewer perspective, the location currently does not have water and sewer, right? If there is a connection that is to happen, it would be Pump Station 11, that as I mentioned earlier, is currently on the moratorium by Durham. As it pertains to police, what we anticipate, there's no definitive number, but as we anticipate through the increased traffic, there will be an indirect impact. To the question of, can the city of Homestead say we can't connect? I think that is a conversation, quite frankly, that we will have with the county as they're reviewing these projects, that we discuss the capacity issue well before we get to permitting and ultimately approval.
So I understand that in the future, but these projects have already started and money has been spent on other sides. I don't know exactly where they are in the permit process and building these, but there's an obligation somewhere that, if they build it, at some point we're going to have to be required either to say yes or no.
Right.
And then what do they have to do at that point? Do they have to put in septic systems? Is that approved by the county or not? There's a lot of what ifs in this scenario right now, and that's the concerning part of it, is that they can start building these things and not have the approvals from us. I'll hold there for now. Thanks, Mike.
Well, and I think even going forward from that is that I could see a situation where let's say a project results in a pump station being under moratorium, it's outside the city, that hamstrings development that we would like to have in the city that cannot go forward due to that project consuming capacity. So, I think seems to be some breakdown in the analysis process of the county as to
The city's
concurrency.
impact. Correct.
Let's not kid ourselves. All of these applicants we're going to discuss tonight have likely spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in attorney's fees and filing fees and site planning and T-plats and so forth without being before being told, hey, wait a minute, there's no capacity here. And again, we could have an already approved project that could be out of luck. Take the current moratorium out of the picture. But someone who's already approved could be significantly delayed in the city by virtue of, and I think that's why, and I've encouraged the manager, and he has pledged to set up a process where we begin to monitor all of the land use applications and all of the county agendas to be on board earlier for these ordinances and other land use items that directly impact the city of Homestead. To your point, there have been some projects just outside the city that have been approved, that we were not watching the bigger picture. And, just as late as this morning, we again had that conversation, and we're going to go forward and begin to be more diligent about what goes on outside our limits. Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm curious for staff if you can get back to me later on it. Not so much as if we're obligated to service or not service, but can we opt to just decline service? Do we have the ability to make that assessment ourselves and decline a connection request?
So Councilman Avila, I would have to follow up with you on that if we have the ability to simply decline.
Just out of curiosity, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further? Yes, Councilwoman Bailey.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to suggest that that we send a letter to Commissioner McGee and Cohen-Higgins just to explain a little bit of the purpose of the moratorium. I think it could not hurt to have them voice what our intentions are, and we can also add in there some questions to see what would some of these scenarios mean.
Yeah.
Get back to us.
And it's directed in these resolutions to provide it to our two county commissioners. And, and I think it would serve us well to enhance the explanation. I mean, there's a superficial recitation in these resolutions of the background of the moratorium we just enacted, but absolutely.
Mayor, have
Yes, Councilman Roth.
The other kind of concern is, as you were saying, the 2 to 2.5 units per acre, way out west like that. What is the county's future land use plans for the Redland area out there? I mean, 550 units on 40 acres west of 187th Avenue is just opening a huge can of worms. The struggle with infrastructure, not only in the city side, the state side with the Turnpike, the federal side with US 1, and I think who owns Chrome Avenue? Is that the state?
State.
So it just doesn't even seem to make any sense anymore for that type of density out west like that. So maybe this one's not approved from what I understand, right? This particular one, the Blue Nest?
Our information, none of the applications before us have been approved.
By the county?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, because I'd be really interested in whose district would this property be in, 197? That's McGee's?
Yeah.
So we need to, I mean, I'm sure the county has a land use map or future land use map similar to what we have that says these things, but it just doesn't make sense that you go from 2.5 acre or units per acre to what, 12, 14 units per acre on this property, and just stick them way out there in the middle of nowhere. So I just my
Yeah,
thoughts.
I don't disagree, and the product is really, to me, out of character. But hey, unfortunately, we have to remain our focus on the infrastructure impact. And I think we've touched on that. Yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'll make the motion, but I have a question for Development Services. So it's kind of like a rush to the permit, like who gets to the permit first to be able to get the allocation for services? That's what I'm understanding. So when we pass a site plan approval, is there like a reservation period?
So when we process site plans within the city limits, there's a concurrency review section in the site plan staff reports. It's usually toward the end of the staff report, right before the exhibits. And in our DRC process, we distribute the site plan, so Public Works, PD, solid waste, et cetera, has the opportunity to weigh in on the site plan. The county process has a similar concurrency review section in that Holland and Knight is here, and so they can clear anything that I misrepresent on the record. But from my understanding, they have like a pre-application concurrency review in which DERM reviews for water and sewer. DERM also reviews for the city for water and sewer. So if there's a deficit in water and sewer concurrency, it will be triggered during that DERM review, which is very preliminary in the process. And then at that point, I believe that the developer reaches out to the agency having jurisdiction over that concurrency issue and work out any type of upgrades that may be needed or an action plan to remedy the situation for their particular site plan.
So what happens when there's simultaneous applications, one here and one there, and you're both running concurrency reviews and
The first
on the
one
same
in
pump?
is the one that gets the reservation,
The first one in for a permit application, or the first one in for site plan?
permit application.
So that's one of the things that I would like to see in our process, where our applications within the city of Homestead get priority over connectivity with our utilities and our services. If there's a way to, earmark them so that regardless of timing of permit application, we approve their site plan, they've got a reservation period regardless of what other concurrency reviews are going on. So if that can happen, I would like to bring that forward at a later time. Thank you.
All right, so you've moved it. We have a second. Seconded by the Vice Mayor. So let's open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the chambers or online wishing to speak on this matter? And this is tab 2, the Blue Nest. Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening. Amanda Naljev, offices 701 Brickell Avenue. I'm actually here representing tab 3, but just a general comment that if there are questions as to process, as Michelle alluded, I'm happy to assist.
Any further public comment? All right, so we'll close the public hearing, and we'll have a roll call vote on tab 2, which is a resolution in opposition.
Councilman Davis? Yes. Councilman Carnival? Yes. Councilman Roth? Yes. Councilwoman Bailey? Councilwoman Avila? Yes. Vice Mayor Fletcher?
Yes.
Mayor Losner?
Yes,
Motion carried.
thank you. Mr. Pearl, let's move on to tab 3.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, tab 3 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, opposing the proposed development of 97 single-family residential units by Lennar Homes LLC on property located in unincorporated Miami-Dade County at the intersection of Southwest 288th Street and Chrome Avenue that will place additional burdens on city infrastructure, providing for transmittal and providing for an effective date.
Ms. Brown.
So, Mr. Mayor, Council, this application, similarly to the first we just reviewed, it was submitted to the county on July 1st. For conversation purposes, it is another resolution in opposition to the development. This development is for 97 new single-family homes. And for context, The project is located within Homestead's energy service territory. Currently, so today, should we not be able to complete the Redland Substation Expansion Project, which is a $3 million capital project that is slated to be completed December 2025. So if everything goes right, we have capacity. If there is a delay, capacity does potentially pose a challenge. As it pertains to water and sewer, that location is not serviced by the City of Homestead, and therefore there is no impact at this time.
Okay, thank you. I think we have a representative on behalf of this applicant. Amanda, if you want to go ahead and...
Evening again, Amanda Naljeff, offices at 701 Brickell Avenue, on behalf of the applicant of this application, which is being processed by Miami-Dade County. Really, we just wanted to give you an opportunity to clear up any processing questions. I know there's a lot as far as Durham in particular. Michelle alluded to the fact that there's a pre-application process that's accurate. The county processes certain, I wouldn't say pre-application because that's an application process in and of itself in the county, but they do have a process by which you can request opinions. You can do that for water and sewer, for Durham, for school concurrency and the like. So for this particular example, you would give the preliminary development information, and they'll give you, for example, for WASA, suggested points of connection, where your nearest gravity main is, your nearest force main, things like that that will help them in the planning stages. So some projects kind of die out at that point. Some proceed to the pre-application process, which is just a one round of comments. So you would submit whatever level of plans are available at that time, and then I want to say it's 12 or 13 different departments will opine on your application. To the extent that you provide plans, that's about the extent that they can provide different comments. They'll help you find alternative routes if that's the better way. They'll help you flow through the city if that's deemed to be appropriate. And at that point is where the pieces start coming together. After that pre-application process is completed, the formal application, the zoning application is what's submitted, which is the stage where this application is in. And again, that same more progressed application, a little bit more mature at that stage, would be redistributed to the same departments, and you would get, call it a little breathier comments, something that's more substantive rather than just preliminary, and then you'd work through the inner workings of the actual application at the density that you're proposing, with the flows you're proposing, with the precise points of connection that are agreed to. So that's kind of the process as it works. That's where we are on this application. This particular application is entirely within the county. It is not serviced by water and sewer in the city. It doesn't flow through the city. The only utility in the city that I believe will be used is Homestead Power, and obviously they would be a paying customer just like anyone else.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Avila.
Thank you, Mayor. Although this project seems to be more in line with the character of the area, single families and not townhomes. And of course, I think Lennar is a great corporate citizen. They sponsor a lot of great organizations here in the city limits. But just for the spirit of our intent here to calm down the development, I'm going to be supporting the resolution on this one. I'm going to be supporting all of them tonight, but for those reasons. So I appreciate the extra information, and I think that it's just appropriate for the board to continue with that direction.
Okay. Thank you, Councilwoman. Any further comments from, yes, Councilman Roth.
I always have a question. So the power utility out in that area, was it the Redland substation? Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, and that's currently under a CIP to increase the capacity out in that area?
That is correct.
And how far along are we on that project?
So I will look to our Director of Utilities to kind of give an impact, the schedule or a more detailed
I
response.
thought I read the end of next
schedule
year.
is, if it finishes, it will be December 2025.
A year later, you're back in the hot seat.
It is summertime. We have already purchased a transformer. That substation currently has one substation transformer, and now we've purchased another one. It is plugged in and sitting in our parking lot. So we have purchased the major equipment that's needed out there. We are also in the process already of putting an additional circuit in out of that substation, and that circuit should be completed in August of this year, and that will provide us some relief. As the Assistant City Manager mentioned, our plan to have the full expansion completed, including additional circuits out of that substation, is planned for the end of calendar year 25.
Okay, so based on that schedule, does it take into consideration any future zoning changes outside of the city of Homestead, inside the district of our utility services, for the expansion and growth of developers that come in the future? So I know we account for some of that stuff, but we don't even know at this point how many dwelling units are going to be developed outside the city limits to have a calculation for our utility department to know what the expansion needs are.
True, Councilman, but what we do have coming for approval of award is the procurement and construction of the Donnie Avocado Substation, which is US 1 and 296th Street. And with that, we will pick up a significant amount of capacity once that substation is completed, and that will keep us prepared for growth through 10, 15, even 20 years.
So and when is that one scheduled to be finished?
Well, we are hoping to award it next month.
Uh-huh.
And then they have given us an 18-month time schedule.
So
So it'll probably be end of 25 or beginning of 26.
So with any other developments that are inside the utility area that we service, are you aware of any other major developments that are coming our way that, I mean, I'm not sure how far our district goes up to US 1,
280.
but I think there's stuff on, is it 288th or 296th that's planned where the old Sunset Feed Store was? Are we feeding that? And the one across the street where there's going to be, multiple story buildings that we have to service?
Yes.
Like 800 apartment units.
Yes.
Is
on
that what that is?
corner, Yeah.
So,
And yes, we have factored, anything that we are aware of or have plans for is factored into our long-term forecast.
and so one of the questions I had earlier was, are you connected and tapped into the any flumes that they may have in the county that shows the potential for what's happening with the Blue Nest at 2.5 units per acre to whatever the number is, whatever it is, that could impact our service areas, and we would then need to increase or upgrade the capacity out there so that we have it in the future. And I think we already passed an ordinance that says that most of these developers are now going to have to pay for a lot of the infrastructure that we were paying for before to add capacity, to add, whatever they need in their developments. So I just want to make sure that we can't stop a lot of this stuff that's going on, but we can be prepared for it, and we can let our feelings be heard, for the development. And, obviously, single-family home versus townhouse or condo is much more desirable than, or single-family is much more desirable than the townhouse and the condo situations, especially as we go further west. So as we're having the conversation, and I know Cohen-Higgins' district is here listening to us. I'm surprised McGee's not, but we'll get to him as well. But I just think it's important that we have an overall picture of what's going on just outside of our city limits as well. I mean, and they mentioned it, the police department. We don't talk about it enough, right? It may not be traffic that's going through here, but it's what elements are living there that are coming into our city that want to affect us as well. So this morning there was a pursuit and an apprehension of a guy that I don't know if he lived in our area, but he definitely was out of the area when that pursuit started. We got him this morning. And to me, it's important that they know that we care about what happens inside of our city limits. We care about what happens outside of our city limits to the point that we can control any of that. And we really can't. But I think this is sending a message to the county, not to the developers, but to the county, have a little bit respect for what you're doing to our internal services. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, and to the point that you made on the last issue, and I know it's not so much as to the number of units on the Lennar project that we're talking about now, but you talked about planning, the visioning, what's the comp plan at the county, what's the vision for these, I've always called them the transitional areas, from the city limits out into the agricultural area, the estate density areas, that we have, one of the projects tonight we're addressing was almost a 6-fold increase, from the up to 2.5 to the up to 13. Let's, be generous and call it a 5-fold increase that our utilities director has to be prepared to deal with. And the other one is about a 2-fold increase where the request is to go from EUM, which is 15,000 square foot lots, down to 6,000 square foot lots. So that at the very minimum is, a little more than a doubling. So it's not just our ability to provide, but I think the county needs to pull its head out of the excuse that we need housing, we have a housing crisis. Building to create what's going to create unlivable conditions in terms of infrastructure is not the answer either. And I hope at least you can take that message back from me. I speak for myself, but it's a bigger picture. Why do we have a comp plan? If we're going to do a checkerboard of anywhere from from a doubling to a 5+ times increase, why do we have a master plan? Is the county committed to agricultural areas? Is the county committed to estate density this far south? Or are you just going to take care of the Blue Bloods in Pinecrest and Coral Gables and some of the other areas, and at whatever happens down here happens? We need to know that, because it certainly feels like that sometimes, because the words of a developer many years ago ring in my ears. You're asking for too much. It's just homestead. I reject that notion. As we sit here today, I think we all reject that mentality. And at least 2 of these applications, I believe, are promoting that mentality. But we have a motion on this item. Moved by Avila, seconded by Cannavale.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if I may, we definitely, I want to make sure it's on the record that while, as it pertains to our energy expansion plans, because we do not know what the county, or we don't have clarity, quite frankly, what the county is doing, growth impact is a challenge, right? So as we work through and hopefully do these transmittals and start the monitoring through our development services, we will be able to more proactively and jointly work with the county in communicating early on these concerns.
Right. All right. So I think we've already had the public. Any final comments? All right. I appreciate you coming down. Thank you. Okay. We already had the public hearing. We have a motion, a second. Let's have a roll call.
Councilman Roth? Yes. Councilman Davis?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bailey? Councilwoman Avila?
Yes.
Councilman Cannavale? Yes. Vice Mayor Fletcher?
Yes.
Mayor Losner?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And moving right along, Mr. Pearl, if you would read tab 4.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Tab 4 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, opposing the proposed development of 40 residential units by PM2 Group LLC and MB Partners LLC on property located in unincorporated Miami-Dade County. at 18900 Southwest 304th Street that will place additional burdens on city infrastructure, providing for transmittal and providing for an effective date.
And our staff report.
Mr. Mayor, both Homestead Energy, similarly to the previous application that we discussed, would rely on the Redland Substation Expansion Project that, again, for the record, is slated to be completed, if all goes well, in December 2025. For our water and sewer, it is also within the service area. So on the sewer side, the intent for this application, which it's 40 single-family properties, would tie into our pump station 46, which I would like to once again thank our Public Works Department. It was recently released from moratorium with Miami-Dade County, Durham. And then additionally, for water, the project would add additional demand on our potable water capacity.
All right. That it?
That is it.
Okay, thank you. Council?
Move it.
Been moved by Councilwoman Avila, seconded by Councilwoman Bailey. Let's open the public hearing since we have a motion on the floor. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask for a roll call vote.
Councilman Davis?
Yes.
Councilwoman Avila?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bailey? Councilman Roth? Councilman Cannibal? Vice Mayor Fletcher?
Yes.
Mayor Losner?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And these, the backup documentation, we probably need to have made part of the record, and I'll return this set to Mr. Pearl, and maybe you could circulate it to council. Yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mayor. And just some closing thoughts on these items. You know, I do believe that it's really important that we have these conversations and that we do vocalize them, and that we do send the message to the county, because the county commissioners, they work very hard juggling a lot of different issues on a day-to-day basis, and housing is a major priority for them to tackle. They've done a lot of work on trying to come up with those solutions, whether we agree with them or not. But if we are not vocalizing our position, they don't know our position. So this is the right step in that direction. There's also the RTZ that they've got coming down the pipeline. So I would hope that, that we shift the focus from the space that looks like it's available in our agriculture areas and say, no, just go back to looking at your RTZ areas, because although there's a lot of space, no hay más espacio. There's no more space really. Like, we can't be adding, 500 units of townhomes in our ag areas. It just does not make any sense. So we have to protect the ag charm that we love and that our residents in the city of Homestead and in the greater Homestead area appreciate and promote homesteading in general. So thank you, Mayor, for bringing that to us, and hopefully that message is loud and clear.
Well, and I look forward to, being more diligent in being proactive rather than having to be reactive at the last minute in so many different areas of concern that the county has. Anything further for this agenda? Ms. Brown?
Not at this time.
All right. Nothing further, Mr. Pearl? The special call? Motion to adjourn the special call? All in favor? All right, we'll give the clerk a couple of minutes to gear up, and we'll open the committee of the whole.
Public transportation out to 550 units. It just doesn't make any sense.
No. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'd like to call the City of Homestead Committee of the Whole meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, July 9th, 2024, and it is now 5:50 p.m. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Bailey? Here. Councilman Davis? Here. Councilman Roth? Here. Councilman Cannibal? Here. Councilwoman Avila,
Here.
Vice Mayor Fletcher,
Here.
Mayor Losner.
Here. Okay, do we have any additions, deletions, or deferrals for the committee of the whole agenda?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. We have before us on tab 1 the June 11th, 2024 minutes. Do we have a motion to approve? Moved by Bailey, moved by Avila, seconded by Bailey. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, next item, tab 2, is motion to place car number 4262 on the council agenda. The award of ITB number 2024-13, operational controls for engine number 20. Let's have a staff report.
Mr. Mayor, this invitation to bid is to award this item to Motor Service Hugo Stamp, and it is for the replacement and upgrade of an obsolete, no longer supported operations control engine. The engine essentially is one of our largest generators to date, and the engine 20 specifically produces about 6 megawatts of power. The operational controls essentially helps the team to balance in an automatic manner the throttles and the demand of the electricity as we need them.
Good, thank you. Let's open the public hearing. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this matter? Yeah, I'll close the public hearing. Council, Councilwoman Avila?
I just wanted to ask if the student apprenticeship program that we recently approved, will they have access to seeing these engines? I mean, this is a $300,000 engine. And I mean, it's pretty interesting just listening to the way you describe how important it is. I can only imagine how vital this type of exposure would be for students.
So I would point to our director on whether or not the apprenticeship program will give exposure to this particular engine.
Or maybe not just this engine, but in general.
I'm sorry, Councilwoman. The question was if the interns that we're using or are going to
There's
have
a program that we just recently approved, and so there's going to be interns and students, and they're going to be getting exposure within different departments in the city. So I was just kind of in awe in the way you were describing it and saying, wow, I hope our kids.
So as in thinking about the intent of the apprenticeship program, yes, right? That we would ensure that, and we're quite frankly advocates of, right, preparing folks to essentially hopefully matriculate and join the city of Homestead, right? So the intent is that obviously anything that our students can have exposure to, we will certainly provide that opportunity.
If I may, we have 4 interns in our shop this summer, and a couple of them are interested in, and one of them is studying engineering. And yes, we are exposing them to all aspects of our operation, which includes the power plant, the substations, the distribution lines, et cetera. So we are exposing the folks that we have as interns to every aspect of it.
Very good to hear that. Thank you. A motion to approve.
Thank you. All right, this item has been moved. Second by Councilman Davis. Roll call, or all in favor? Any opposed? All right, next item is tab 3, motion to place car number 4275 on the council agenda. Transfer Covanta Power Agreement from Miami-Dade to Lee County. Madam Manager?
And so this item is as you mentioned, Mr. Mayor, transfer. Covanta was the provider for Miami-Dade County. And with the recent fire with Miami-Dade County, it resulted in a transfer from the service location to Lee County. This is more of an administrative resolution request where we are formalizing the city's continued use of Covanta. There is no fiscal impact as it has already been budgeted. There is not an extension of terms. This agreement will continue through December 31st, 2019.
2019?
2029. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I think we're all awake. I know more than myself just caught that.
Right.
All right, moved by Vice Mayor Fletcher, seconded by Councilman Cannonball. Um, Is there anyone here wishing to speak on this matter? Didn't think so. All right, we'll close the public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed? Next item is tab 4, motion to place car number 4278 on the council agenda, ITB number 2024-003, the removal and replacement of rapid infiltration trench repairs for the wastewater treatment facility. Madam Manager.
Mr. Mayor, this is in alignment with the standard laws by the EPA. We are looking to ensure that the City of Homestead's water continues to be safe and potable for its residents. There is a fiscal impact for this award of $164,500.
Thank you. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on this matter? I'll close the public hearing. Councilwoman Avila.
Thank you, Mayor, and this is $164,500 per trench, as it's read here. So, again, it's a lot of money for public work services, and I would really like for our interns and our students to see how these things are done, and if we can get this exposure to the kids, it'll make it a little bit more worthwhile that we're spending this money. So. I'll motion to approve. Thank you.
Councilwoman, I'll give an opportunity to our Public Works Director to kind of give some insight as to the internship program and the exposure that the students are having in our Public Works Department.
Yeah, she can send that to me via email or give me a call and we'll talk more about it. Thank you.
Okay.
Hit your microphone button.
There you go. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. Regarding the apprenticeship program, we would definitely be open to having people come, students come and see what we're working on. In fact, I just had a conversation with the Assistant Director of Operations, and we were discussing something similar to this if we were to do solar farms or whatnot, solar panels or whatnot. So, yeah, we're definitely open to that.
Very good.
Thank you. I really appreciate the support of those programs because all these kids want to be YouTubers today. So, but we need utility workers and power workers and carpenters and electricians, so keep it coming. Thank you.
Right. Do we have a move by Vice Mayor Fletcher? You did last time. Councilman Davis wanted to second this one. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, next item is tab 5, motion to place car number 4259 on the council agenda. A Safe Streets and Roads for All grant program. Manager.
Mr. Mayor, this item, the City of Homestead has applied for a grant with the Department of Transportation. As you mentioned, the Safe Street and Roads for All grants program. We were awarded $200,000. There is a local matching requirement of $50,000, totaling $250,000. The money will be received from the city fiscal year 2025, and the intent is to conduct a citywide traffic study as it pertains to once the dollars are in, we will engage with a consultant, develop a formal scope and a timeline for this citywide traffic study to be performed.
Very good. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on this matter? Okay, I'll close the public hearing and ask for any questions or comments from council. All right, do we have a motion? Moved by Councilwoman Avila, seconded by Councilman Roth. All in favor? Any opposed? Moving right along. All right, takes us to, I believe, tab 6. Is that correct? Yes. Tab 6. This is a discussion item. Car number 4287. Fiscal year 2025 Public Art Committee Work Plan. So we have a staff report first.
This is a discussion item, and I would like for our Assistant Director of Development Services to present the item.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. The Public Art Flexible Master Plan and Program Guidelines was adopted on October 20th of 2021 by the City Council. The master plan envisions the development of an annual work plan The Public Art Committee Fiscal Year 25 Annual Work Plan is attached to the program documents as Exhibit 1 and includes a capital improvement program for 5 years as well. Projects recommended for the fiscal year 25 work plan include 5 projects currently approved and in implementation, 6 new projects requiring calls to artists, and 2 projects addressing code and funding standards. Fiscal impact is approximately $525,000. The projects that we have included on the work plan that are not in implementation are shown in the work plan document as number 6, the Cyberarium exterior mural, the HPS energy switch cabinet wrapping, Roby George mural, Harris Field climbable art, sports complex feature art, a code amendment which deals with the in lieu funds amount percentage, a 15% maintenance set aside required for public art projects, and the tourist sculpture. Also included in the the work plan, are about 20 future projects, all of which has been discussed in previous years, and we're able to move those around. We're basically asking for basically acceptance of the plan, and before any of these projects are actually begun, we'll come back to you with a call to artists or documentation that details it in greater detail so that you have another chance to deal with it from an approval standpoint.
Thank you, sir. As I look to my right, any questions or comments?
Thank you, Mayor.
Kick off the discussion item.
Well, we spoke earlier already. I support all of the above. But just a quick little reminder and maybe a little introduction to some of our newcomers who haven't heard about Maui murals yet. But I had not forgotten. As soon as the discussion started with the mural on the back of the Seminole Theater, I thought that is just the perfect end piece or beginning piece, depending on which way you're coming down. So with the bakery coming and hopefully now the Cyberarium, I just can't help but be even more hopeful that that will just continue down the road. The one thing that I just asked to keep on our radar is to see if there's a way for us to make the Police Athletic League next to Blakey Park, to make that PAL gym a little more inviting and just a little more evident that there's after-school programming and opportunities for kids to walk over after school. So as I mentioned, I know we just redid the roof, but I think that it is at an interesting angle that something could be done on the roof that is seen from a short distance away. That's also across the street from the new development that's coming there next to, I'm drawing a blank. What's the, Touching My TML. So I think that that would be a really neat addition to the area, and of course very helpful to let the kids and parents know that there are a lot of programs that are available there. That's all. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. So let me ask Mr. Hennis, didn't think about it today during our session. If wrapping utility boxes are an appropriate expenditure for public art money, and we also have water tower art. If we begin to utilize our 250 logo, does that take it out of the realm of being an art project? Just a question.
Do you mean that
I'm talking about wrap a water tower
Okay.
with our logo.
If the purpose basically of the public art program and public art funding is actually to have artists involved in the process from start to finish. So that would be the telling part of it, that if we have an artist that's actually begun with it and started it, and we do a call to artists or something like that along with it, it makes it easier to use the public art funds for, as opposed to something that's done separately from that.
like just off the top of my head, because, you know, I'm the artist that can't draw a straight line with a ruler. If you did the seal on a water tower and you had an artist connect the seals with some kind of frou-frou, then that, and we all know what frou-frou means,
There's
that
probably a
then
way to get
becomes
there.
art
There's probably a
by
way to
the
get there.
addition of.
Mayor, thank you for asking, because that was one of the questions I asked on the one-on-one. And so we could certainly ask and do a call to artists and ask these artists to come up with a design that incorporates our logo and satisfy the spirit of the art requirements. Would you agree?
I would agree. I think the opportunity exists certainly when you're doing a call to artists, that the artist may have unique ideas and unique thoughts about it too, that in the future it could be expanded, that if you want that logo to go away, to be able to go away with it and extend it in the future. So I think there are ways to do that. Just singularly taking something and placing it on there is probably a difficult piece, but if you're connecting it with something else, it's probably doable.
Because, you know, you offered the opportunity, well, first mistake was a discussion, and the second mistake was offering the opportunity to move some of these other projects up. And since we've just adopted the logo and we're on a 2-year time frame, not to say it can't stay in place beyond July 4th, 2026, I'd like us to move up, at least have the discussion about moving up water tower art. I mean, I think they all need some kind of enhancement, but, you know, at least one, hopefully maybe two, incorporate our anniversary-specific logo. That's my thought.
And if I can take the opportunity to just mention if we can have some sunflowers in the design, and if we can come up with like a city bird, or make the sunflower also the city flower. Oh, maybe. But I would like for us to explore maybe incorporating that in some of our art conversations going forward.
Well, you know.
And a prettier bird.
Well, yeah, no, and in that regard, with respect to including flowers, that may be an appropriate inclusion on the utility boxes. And not, you know, do a whole, you know, both our native and some of the non-native stuff at more ground level. So, yes, Vice Mayor Fletcher.
Yeah, during my discussion with staff earlier, you know, my concern is, you know, we only have a 1.4 million currently in our budget for public art. And what we have done in the past was currently for new developers and things that come in, we charge them 1/2%. And we need to probably look at increasing that number because we're on the lower end of the threshold when it comes to other cities. Most of them are 1% or higher, up to 1.5%, I believe you said. So a lot of developers has got a great deal from us here in the past, but it's time again, you know, it's not always just going to end up here in Homestead and we're going to be the low man on the totem pole. Let's start upping those fees as well.
I second the motion, yes.
Just something that we're discussing things here.
Well, you know,
so.
and in that regard, if we chose to do so, we could discuss and direct our attorneys to bring back an addendum, an amendment to the ordinance
Yes.
that increases the contribution to
That's
what
what
it
I need.
was originally contemplated to be, and that was 1%. And I understand what happened in 2008, 9, and
Right.
10, and why that was reduced. We are far beyond that. So if
Absolutely.
that's what we would like our direction to the attorneys to be, everybody nod your head in the direction of Mr.
Yes.
Pearl, and let's start that
And
process.
what, we're going to start
Yes.
at 1%? We're
1%.
going to go for from half
That's,
percent to
1%'s a
1%.
doubling of where we are now.
Just for clarity. Okay, thank you.
And not expanding the scope, this is limited to commercial. Now, under the definition, does that include mixed use? Because, you know, when that was adopted, that wasn't necessarily a thing. And it could apply to mixed use, but the percentage applied to an estimate of what the commercial component cost to apply that, not to the whole thing.
One thing to keep in mind, the original requirements for public art weren't just the percentage in lieu percentage. There were thresholds for maximum amount that could be paid. There's a set aside for the maximum amount of project cost, and all of those were originally larger than what they are now. So if we're looking to go back to more closely to what it was when we adopted it in 2010, it's going to increase the amount that someone's required to pay. It's going to increase the amount of project costs, so you're getting more money for larger projects.
What is our cap now?
What, 100?
I think it's 100,000 now is the maximum that we
The
can get from a
contribution is,
project.
yeah, no matter how big the project, the limit is 100,000.
I believe before it was 200,000 when we originally adopted.
So I would offer that we look at, we look at our neighbors and ask and see what they're doing as well. To see
And I
if
think
we're-
they've already compiled that, bring
Right.
back a proposal
Yep.
in that. And I guess you would need to, while we're doing that, would you incorporate the 15% set aside for long-term maintenance?
Correct.
You have any other requests or recommendations of any other issues we need to address while we are reopening the ordinance?
I think those are really the best ones to deal with.
Sorry, real quick. I happen to have the past minutes and everything in a binder. So it says that schools and churches are exempt. Is that something that maybe we can consider? If they're, churches, I'm not sure how many would be interested in it, but I think that schools are, Homestead Middle just finished this incredible mural art project. Maybe we should consider adding schools as well, especially because of the whole purpose of this, being something that's positive and great for the community to start in the schools. So right now it says that it's any project that exceeds $1 million, and it includes single-family homes?
Does, yes.
That's awesome. So definitely, I don't think there should be a cap. If you're spending that much money, then you put that percentage back into art for the area that you're developing in. So that's my, but no, if we can consider adding schools, I think that would be the one other thing that I would love to look
And I
at.
wonder, do you know offhand, does the county have do they bill themselves for public art within schools projects?
They do.
They do, so.
So where is that here in Homestead?
The county would be involved in that process, and we would, if it's in the city of Homestead, but it's a county project, the county's going to deal with that project through their Art and Public Places funds, and therefore we can't also double tap them for additional funds.
Okay, so then can we be a little more involved asking them where is the public art in any of the schools here in Homestead?
I think they'll be more than happy to help us with that in the future.
Thank you, Mayor.
And one other issue that comes to mind is that currently we allow, in lieu of a payment to our fund, we allow the private placement. I don't know that the placement of a neat sculpture in a hotel parking lot off the beaten path really serves the purpose. I'd like to see us consider removing the private placement option and just having a payment into the fund.
At least for now.
If it's going to, what's that?
I was going to say, at least for now, because we're very active on this committee.
Yes.
Whereas before, the quorums were
It
a
was an
problem.
easy out, yeah.
Exactly.
That, the one that comes to mind is just not even on a main road. Only if you are utilizing that hotel do you see that piece of public art.
Mayor, there's another item on the list that I would like to discuss, the underpass project. I was just thinking, if we would be able to use that as a canvas to announce our celebration of the 250th, and then, change it periodically, that would be a great platform to celebrate the agriculture in our community, et cetera. So, especially it leading into our new hospital corridor and our mixed-use development area going into District 5 and into the Oasis districts as well. It's kind of like a main way in this side on the east side of town.
Very good. And if, someday the vision of the redevelopment contained in the charrette comes to bear fruit, there will be a lot of money going into,
I think
to
for
that
that,
fund.
for that underpass project, staff needs to be directed to continue to discuss with the Turnpike authorities for that, because the last time it was discussed, that's what I was told, and then with our one-to-one, there wasn't really any progress with that, at least that I'm aware of, correct?
It is a complicated project just because of the requirements that they have up front for design, and it's hard to do design up front of a call to artists because you're basically doing it beforehand. So it's involving them in the process pretty early, the Turnpike Authority and those associated with that. And keep in mind a little bit with that is that they're looking for things that do not distract from driving in terms of signage and words and things of that nature. They're looking for more lighting types of things, or if people are walking under the underpass. But it is a little bit more complicated just because of the safety aspect of things. I've been told.
That makes sense. And you know what, now that we're talking about that, I would rather that area be more walkable and be more clean and less of, less blight in general. So if there's any way to make that a priority in the meantime, can we please do so? And I don't know if that's your department or a different department, but every time District 5 or the east side needs to go to the west side, we go through that underpass, and it's not pretty. And there's no sidewalk on the north side of Campbell Drive. So if you're leaving Waterstone, you have to go across the street, then go down, then cross back over to go to like the Cole Shopping Center if you wanted to do that. So whatever we can do to beautify that area, if it's public art or otherwise, please let's do that. Thank you.
So you got a couple other items on here. I think it's important for us to go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off the tourist sculpture. The last one, it's been called the tourist, it's been called Elvis, it's been called a lot of things. I suggested that staff look into whether they can reasonably determine that given the condition of it, it's a safety hazard, and we just remove it and put it where we store other similar items that are in need of repair. That certainly, we're all good with, yeah, with removing that. And then you also, late 90s. I think Mr. Hennis came up with a newspaper article from 1996 when it was put there. And the other would be, and this will bring me back to, we talk about the sports complex feature art, and I know there's been, talk of sculptures around the smaller lake to reflect on the water and so forth. I'd really like us to, and maybe we can pigeonhole this in public art, maybe not, maybe the base can be, but if it's true that the jet can be wrapped rather than painted, and whether or not the base for the jet, if we're going to agree to have it move to the entrance of the sports complex, have the base be a piece of public art, I'd like to see us go forward with that. Go ahead and decide if that is doable, decide that and if we're going to make the jet an entrance feature to the park. Let's go ahead and get that rolling and figure out what the specifications would be, the technical specifications for the base would be, and also, you have to put that in a call to artists to have an appropriate but yet art defined base for the jet, if that's what we're going to do, and go ahead and move forward with, asking those donors who are going to pay to have it moved and painted to go ahead and move forward with the wrapping, and show some forward movement at that location and do some public art all at the same time.
So in terms of number 10 on the list, making that project is what you're inferring?
I kind of envision the jet as the entrance feature. That is not to foreclose perhaps even mobile pieces or smaller pieces that were envisioned, I think, by the park master plan that the committee did to have smaller pieces of more contemporary sculpture around the lake. But the jet would be the signature piece at the entrance of the park.
I think there's a way to do that. You can incorporate a call to artists where the artist is supposing to do something, but part of that is incorporating the jet and a wrapped jet into the overall concept for the site. So I think there's a way to do that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. First of all, real quick, I was driving my little one to school yesterday, and I was like, oh, we're going to get some new art pieces here. And he goes, so the guy with the beer can is going to not be here anymore? And I was like, it's not a beer can, it's a map. And after I drop him off and I'm coming back home, sure enough, there's a beer can in his hand. So yeah, it's time for him to find a new home. But I had a quick question. I'm thinking about the water tower and the logo. Isn't it in our current code that we cannot have any type of advertising or wording? So in any type of mural, we're not allowed, there's no advertising or text?
It's basically private entities. If it's city-oriented activities, we're perfectly okay with stuff like that.
Just wanted to make sure that wasn't something we had to look at before anything else happened.
Good catch. You know your folder after 8 years. Anything further, council?
Yes, can I just get a clarification or remind me what the interactive water feature is and where is it going to go?
Losner.
That's going to be at Losner Park?
Very close.
That stylized mangrove with the water dripping out of it, kind of a little bit more than a mister, but it's portable.
Yeah.
There is a picture of it in the work plan on page, what page is it on? Page,
It's on the same page with the bird mural.
yeah, it's number 4 in the work plan.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That's 125,000?
And we approved that one. That's prior to the election.
Got it. Okay.
And just for clarification, there are 2.
I'm sorry?
For that price?
Yes.
Okay. That makes more sense. Thank you.
All right. And Councilman Roth.
Thank you. Since we are the PAC, we are the Public Art Committee, and I don't know that we've actually met. Are we required to meet?
Only for activities or actions or if you want to discuss things. So we have not met separately until we bring forward a call or a question. So this was to sort of fulfill that role of giving us what our task is for the next year. But we'll bring each one of these back, and if you want to make changes or add something to the list, we can do that at any time.
Right, so I was just thinking that, do we have anything that maps out any art that's been placed in the city already?
We have a list. We don't actually have a graphic or a listing on our website. I know that there's been talk about including into the website public art program that sort of talks about the public art that we have, what it looks like, and at some point creating a handout or something that people can carry with them. That's probably forthcoming, but right now there is not anything like that.
So, and I'm kind of leading the path, or down a path that with the sports complex and in the future, if we actually created an art walk, not to take away from the Bailey's art walk, but a true art walk that has been established, whether it be around the lake, at the sports complex, through historic downtown Homestead, that if we start to build the art culture here, that people will want to place art in our area, in our city, and it becomes an attraction, right? So what are we going to do this weekend? Oh, let's go to Homestead. They got some art down there. We got a walking path. We got this. We got that. And then when you have that area established, then you can bring the art walk to that specific area, which incorporates not only the private pieces that will be brought in for the shows and the art stuff that we do, but it creates an atmosphere. We're not gonna duplicate what they do up in, what's that place called up the road? Linwood, but I think if we start to at least cultivate a specific area with specific pieces, I mean, are we still waiting for this guy to show up? When's he's gonna show up?
Chrome.
Mr. Chrome?
We actually have a discussion item on August 6th to provide a update, and then also proffer locations for the council to make a decision. I know that there were, prior to us getting here, there was some conversations about the plaza at City Hall, and then most recently adding the Chrome on Chrome, right? So the intent is to bring a discussion item for the council to provide direction and on the August 6th COWS meeting.
Yeah, because I think we have a lot of spaces that we can incorporate some art and create a walkable or travelable brochure or map that shows these items. So this is my 2 cents.
And I'm glad somebody brought up the Chrome statue, because I wanted to jump in, and after our conversation walking up and down the street the other day. It's hard to visualize. Can we have a full-size cutout made of that statue? A cardboard cutout with the actual height, the actual dimensions it will be, and let's figure out, does it look better over there? Does it look better over here? Should it be in front? Whole different perspective when it's not like we're going to be moving the real thing around.
We can certainly make that
Even
request and see.
Even if it's just a silhouette.
We can certainly have a discussion and see what we can do to give context to the size.
Good. Okay. You're the one on a time frame.
I know. We're still in good time.
Yes.
But no, real quick, just to Councilman Roth's point, they host all these different types of scavenger hunts where people end up here in Homestead. I was at Losner Park not long ago, and somebody's looking around, and she's looking really frustrated. And I was like, "Are you okay?" And she goes, "I don't know, you're not going to know this, but there's a tree here dedicated to a Councilman Shelley." I was like, I actually do happen to know. So I don't know, maybe there's a way to find out, like, who is the one who puts those things together, because it's a full app, it's like the Pokemon looking for things, and you just see these groups of people walking around kind of lost, and it took me a while to figure out what they were doing. But if there's a way to find out who the organizations are, I mean, if it's a matter of paying them for a list of what they do here, or what they have listed, then at least we've got some groundwork. Thank you.
Very good. Does that end the discussion on the art in public places? And moving right along to our last tab, tab 7.
Mr. Mayor, Council, this is an item on more of an FYI for the Council. On July 2nd, Miami-Dade County's Board of County Commissioners adopted an ordinance that prohibits the solicitation of businesses or solicitation of business on private residential properties between the hours of 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. We do not anticipate there being an immediate impact to staff, but we wanted to make the council aware, number one. Number two, if there is an impact, where should you receive complaints, we are positioned to work with our code compliance department to respond, be it overtime, on an on-call basis, and if the issue were to arise where it is a regular occurrence, we could deliberate a code officer being added, or a dedicated code officer for nighttime monitoring, if and when that occurs.
Very good, thank you. I'm just not aware that we have that issue here. But it's interesting draftsmanship where it talks about each municipality may establish and enforce its own regulations provided that such regulations are more stringent than the provisions of this section. It would typically say not less stringent and maybe more. You know, if we wanted to adopt our own, being more stringent would be 8:01 p.m. to 8:01 p.m.
Certainly. They've established the floor, and I guess we can go up from there.
Mayor, if I may ask for clarification on that. So for example, in our gated communities where we prohibit solicitation, we could then consider the police department to support and to handle a problem if one should arise based on this, correct?
Well, this ordinance covers cities.
It does. It's both for incorporated and unincorporated areas. It applies.
Well, then I would like to thank the chairman, Gilbert, and co-commissioner Cabrera for making this happen. Thank you.
That concludes the agenda unless the management staff has anything further or the attorneys have anything further.
We're okay, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Yes. All right. One more from Avila and then
Sorry.
Roth.
Thank you. The lights on 137th Avenue, adjacent to Waterstone Community, are still out. I was told July 5th they would be out. The county would be out there to fix them, and then I saw an email about lights or copper being missing on 147th Avenue. Not sure how one affects the other, but what is the current status? Residents need light to be safe. Thank you.
Yes, we are aware that those lights are still out. The manager has actually reached out personally to the Director of Public Works at Miami-Dade County, impressing upon him the urgency and importance of this issue. We hope to have a positive update for you all shortly.
Thank you, and I believe that I noticed it's the same individual that he requested that we get on their mosquito plan. It's the same individual that's monitoring both, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And I did not see a response to that request either. So we need to maybe go take it a little higher, because these lights on 137th Avenue have been out, I think, since I was appointed in 2020. And it's not for lack of trying and expressing and asking and being patient in the process, but this is unacceptable at this point. I have another request from a school representative. They were asking if the PAL program could be, excuse me, if the PAL program could be incorporated into the middle schools. So I'm not sure if that's something that we can work on expanding. Right now, the PAL program, you have to go to the PAL gym to participate, and it's, I think, for older kids. But if we could work in conjunction with the community schools program, they would be able to support and set up a PAL level program for middle schoolers. So I'd like for us to look into that and maybe bring some conversations in the future if necessary, if you need action from council. And then I have an item on Losner Park, the virtual interactive app that you're supposed to scan the sign and kind of play around with. The signage is like fading, deteriorating. It looks really bad. So it's just not, it's not attractive and inviting to use. So if we can work on those items, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Roth.
Yeah, just real quick. It's to me, it's about a safety issue. I've traveled a little bit the last few months, and I noticed that crosswalks, especially pedestrian crosswalks, most areas have either signage that alerts a driver that this is a crosswalk area. The one that really stands out to me is the one on, I think it's 157, 152, 162, where the nature trail is, right? So people trying to cross that road by the bridge, there's nothing to warn drivers that potentially a bicyclist or a pedestrian is walking that nature path through there. And I'm sure there's other areas in the city that that could use something that helps pedestrians get across those areas that we're inviting people to cross. So I think it's a state law that vehicles are to yield to pedestrians in some areas. So that one particular is one, I don't know how far that thing goes and where it crosses. I think it crosses on by the Oasis Publix area too, there's one. So maybe we look at those and at least maybe put a crosswalk button or something that they can push and it lights up like I've seen in other places, so that drivers that are zooming through there, especially the one by the Publix, that's like a 2-lane intersection in a median and then going across it again. So just for, safety issues. Maybe we can look at that. I don't know if we have jurisdiction over that to put those up, but I think we need to think about how to do that, so that's it.
Yes, about a year and a half ago, I had requested a map of all the all the lights throughout the city. You had sent that out to us at one point, and it showed who owned it, FDOT, FPL, City of Homestead. If we could get that reissued so all of us can get an update on that. Thank you.
And with that, if there's nothing further, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Councilman Davis?
Thank you. Very quickly, since I'm the last thing between us and adjournment, I would request a report. About 8 months ago, 6 months ago, there was a report that was supposed to be authored about the septic to sewer in the Northwest, and that should be completed about now, but I haven't seen anything with that report. If we can have that for next time, perhaps.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to catch you off guard. We can
No,
have
no,
that
no.
for next meeting, and that would be fine. All
Okay.
right? So you see where that stands. Thank you.
Very good. So now, we have a motion to adjourn. So say we all. Good night. Thank you, everyone.